Hey, everybody, it's Peter Schwartzbein, your city council representative, here with another community meeting that we have for our June District 1 community meeting. Super excited about this community meeting that we're having here. I want to first thank my staff, my chief of staff, Larry John Porras, and our office manager for District 1, Luz Esquivel. So again, thank you for being here. Again, you can always follow us at Facebook at EP District 1. Also at Twitter at EP District 1, as well as Instagram at EP District 1. And as always, one of the best ways to get in touch with us is by emailing us at district1@elpasotexas.gov or by calling us at area code 915-212-1002. In addition to that, we also have our weekly email newsletter that we send out Friday afternoons, usually, if not mid-morning. So you can also get those as well, and we will go and provide a link for y'all to sign up for that as well. So we'll just give everybody a second here for signing in. We want to thank again city staff, both from Sun Metro as well as the City of El Paso's Museum and Cultural Affairs Department for taking the time to share a little bit about what they're working on and to again address and answer any of your concerns. I will give you guys some updates here in a moment, and then we will go into the presentations. Again, if you have any questions for myself or for the presenters today, what we ask is that you hold on those questions till the end of the presentations. Again, if you have any questions, you can also place them in the chat box as well, and we can get to them as well. And then if there's anybody that would like to speak and unmute, we can go to that as well. We just ask that everybody speak in a respectful and kind manner, because that's what we do in El Paso, and it's extremely hot outside, and I think everybody's just a little bit tired and cranky from all the heat. I think we reached another 100-degree day. I think that's either 7 or 8 in a row. We're definitely going through a hot spell right now. And again, wanted to remind everybody that we do have cooling centers that are open through June 20th. Again, we want to make sure that people stay inside as much as possible, especially senior residents, in order to avoid heat-related illnesses. So you have a friend of my mother's who had heat exhaustion just from a baseball game on Saturday morning. So it's a real thing there. And so again, we working with the El Paso Office of Emergency Management, as well as with Parks and Rec and the Extreme Weather Task Force, have a number of centers that are open as cooling centers, including the Memorial Park Senior Center, as well as others that are located there. We will provide a list for y'all of them throughout the city. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. And again, even though the use of face masks is not required anymore, it is strongly encouraged at some of those cooling centers. Again, as a reminder, if you are not muted, to please mute yourself as well. Some COVID updates as well. We are at a point now where we're at almost 70% of El Pasoans with at least one COVID vaccine, which is great because this is a goal that President Biden had to get there by July 4th, and we're beating it. We are in the top 10 cities in the entire country in terms of our vaccine percentage, and El Pasoans are really stepping up to the plate. But people still can get vaccinated right now, regardless of where they are in El Paso. And it's important, again, to go and do that. So again, a couple different ways. First, you can schedule an appointment by visiting epcovidvaccine.com or by clicking on the registration form there, or by calling 212-6843. In addition to that, you can also walk up at any of our COVID care clinics. The closest one in District 1 is over on Remcon Circle, across from the post office, over there by the Walmart and the Home Depot. In addition to that, the convention center is still a mega site. You can walk up to the convention center 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. You can park underneath off of Santa Fe Street, walk in, get your vaccination, and walk out. There is no line anymore. Again, encourage people to do that. I know that Las Cruces in New Mexico have a $100 gift fee that they're looking, a $100 gift certificate that they're giving out for people to get vaccinated before Thursday in New Mexico. but again, we are in Texas, so there is no $100. However, you do have the peace of mind that comes with having a COVID vaccine, and the safety with that of keeping your friends and your neighbors safe. So those are some of the updates that we have here as well. You know, again, going into our budget season, we'll be going into our budget season right now. We've been having for the last 6 months different presentations and preliminary budgets. Right now, we are scheduling to not have a tax rate increase for this proposed 2022 budget. This will be the second year in a row that the city of El Paso, again, which is about 26% of your overall tax dollar, will not be having a tax rate increase for this year. So that is for a number of different reasons, including recent debt refinancing, resulting in a savings of nearly $20 million, strong sales tax growth, and also a very conservative approach towards the fiscal sort of uncertainties relating to COVID as it relates towards city services and our budget overall. Also, the city's budget is responding to the community's priorities identified during the chime-in service. Again, I would ask everybody, I think I can hear somebody not on mute right now. So again, if you are not muted, to please mute yourself. That would be great and wonderful, and all of us would really appreciate it, including me. So the priorities that we're looking at having is, again, based upon the chime-in service and other community surveys, is looking at public safety. We're looking at 3 police and 2 fire academies, as well as $7.8 million of an increase for police vehicles, fire engines, ambulances, and radio replacements, as well as increased funding for the crisis intervention team and 9/11 communication staffing. Now, again, this crisis intervention team, or CIT, is a team that's a unit within the police department that specifically focuses on mental health care crisis issues and persons dealing with mental health care crises. So a different part of the police department, but a very important one that, again, is dealing with individuals that are dealing with mental health care crises to de-escalate. In addition to that, we have streets identified as one of our priorities and one of your priorities through the chime-in process. $7.8 million for street resurfacing, which is an increase of $4.8 million. And that, again, is $4.8 million for residential and $3 million for collector roads throughout the city. We're looking at quality of life. Again, 40 quality of life facilities have opened up in the current year, including new recreational center and water parks. And then we have 32 more city facilities budgeted to open up next year, including all rec and senior centers as well. So those are just some important things to take note. Some budget dates to make note of, and we'll go and provide this into the chat box as well, is June 22nd. We're going to have a presentation and recommendation to extend the over 65 and disabled exemptions, dealing with, again, this tax rate and this budget, and that is going to be for folks over 65 and disabled as well, our most vulnerable. On July 25th, the city of El Paso will receive the certified tax roll from the Central Appraisal District. Keep in mind, again, that the Central Appraisal District is separate and independent from the city of El Paso. I know that there's some confusion that you guys have increased our property valuations. City of El Paso does not control the Central Appraisal District. They're an independent entity that was created by the state. July 29th, we're going to have, again, a presentation on the certified tax roll and an ordinance introducing the tax rate. August 10th, there'll be a public hearing on the tax rate. And August 24th, we are planning to schedule a vote to adopt the FY 2022 budget and tax rate as well. So that is pretty exciting. I want to take this time again to go and introduce our folks. We do have some great library programming that is going on that we will share there that just started on Monday, June 7th. Basically, we have a Tales and Tales Summer Reading Club that's open both to children and adults to increase literacy. And this year's is going to have a variety of challenges and events for all ages. And basically, the way the program works of Tales and Tales is between June 27th and August 23rd. Readers, young and old, are encouraged to read as much as they can for the program, and children are encouraged to read either 8 books or 8 hours throughout the summer, depending on their reading level. And those who participate in this summer reading club will be able to earn prizes, including books, restaurant coupons, and merchandise. So there'll be a variety of live and virtual programming as well. So that is pretty exciting as well. So that is a lot of what we have here. There are some other updates going on as well, relating closer towards District 1, the Uptown Parking Benefit District, which is roughly the meters that are based around the Cincinnati, Stanton, Mesa Street corridor, are extending their hours by 3 hours starting June 14th this weekend. So those parking meters will be active starting from 8 a.m. to midnight to 8 a.m. and 3 a.m. And again, that's not affecting the hours of operation for the businesses located in the district. And again, keep in mind that the city uses 100% of the revenues from those parking meters to reinvest back into the area and helping to deal with different costs as well. So currently there's 113 meters in the Uptown Parking Benefit District, and the meters are $1 an hour as well. And they take quarters, dollars, credit cards, and Park 915 by app payments as well. So that is some of the updates we have as well. Again, anybody that has any other questions as well, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat box. Look forward to answering those. Again, after the presentations that we have, will be open towards any questions that y'all have. But I do want to introduce our first speaker, who without a doubt has the best backgrounds for Zoom meetings, Microsoft Team meetings, hand down, always coming through correct with the best backgrounds. There's no virtual background with Ben Fife. That's the real deal art here, because we have a wonderful director for the Museum and Cultures Affairs Department, Ben Fife. He's been with the city for more years than he wants to remember, but I can tell you that Ben has the biggest heart for this city and for the artist community as well, and understands wholeheartedly and on a deep and fundamental level the intersection between economic development, between art production, and between making the city all that it can be. And so I'm really, really fortunate and happy and blessed to be able to introduce Ben here today. He's a big reason why I felt so comfortable in returning back to El Paso 10 years ago, and the Museum and Cultures Affairs Department and the number of programming that they do here and the public art that they bring to our community is nothing short of amazing. And so it's very much my humbled honor to be able to introduce the director of the Museum and Cultures Affairs Department, Ben Fife.
Thank you, Rep. Schwartzbein, for very kind words that I will try to live up to in this presentation. What we're going to be actually presenting today to constituents of District 1 is really opportunities that families have for taking advantage of our museums and also our offerings for this summer. So John, if you will take us to our next slide, please. So here's some quick information about our museums. We are currently in what is called phase 1 of returning to normal operations. And in phase 1, we have limited days that we are open. And so our 2 downtown facilities, our Museum of Art and our Museum of History, both entered phase 1 in April. Our Museum of Archaeology will actually be opening up this coming Thursday. We're really excited about that because it will finally bring all 3 museums back online. And then our Downtown Art and Farmers Market runs Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Next slide, please. So while the Museum of Art was closed, actually, and the Museum of, actually all 3 of our museums, while they have been closed, they took opportunities to be able to do some infrastructure upgrades, which are never exciting for the public to hear about. But the exciting thing is that they all worked on refreshing gallery spaces. And so we've been able to open with 8 new exhibitions to be able to welcome the community back into the museum, as well as the fact that we actually worked really hard at both of our downtown locations to be able to actually undo some practices that we felt were out of line with where our community is. And so what I mean by that is we are using much more welcoming language in all of our labels, in our didactics, in our descriptions of works. And you will often see works on view that are more representative of the diverse community that we are. At the Art Museum, over 50% of the artwork that is on view in the galleries now is actually by women or artists of color. And at the Museum of History, you see more exhibitions that are actually related to the various and diverse populations that have helped create what El Paso is today. So these are the exhibitions that you can encounter at the El Paso Museum of Art. We also, next slide, please. We also have a number of camps and activities for families and kids. We have virtual exhibition tours, so you can actually come into the museum and then actually visit and actually take advantage of recorded discussions by the artists themselves or staff or scholars to be able to walk you through what you're seeing. We have virtual summer art camps that are taking place this year. Those are free. And what's really great about them is actually we prepare packets with supplies that your child will need to be able to do the activities that they'll be walked through in a virtual format. Those are limited in space, so we do need people to register quickly, but it is a free offering that we can offer up to 15 children per camp. And again, we actually have the supplies delivered to you, which is really great. There's nothing worse than when you've, I think as we've all lived through virtual programming, when you have a really fun activity, but it's oftentimes with supplies or elements that are not readily available to you or your family. So we wanted to make sure that was not a barrier to participation. Some of those things will be virtual drawing and painting. We have family guides, and then of course, a virtual concert coming up. Next slide, please. The Museum of History also worked very hard to be able to change out most of the galleries in the space and has a number of exhibitions that are greeting visitors for the first time. So I will say that Changing Past, People, Land, and Memory was actually an exhibition that the museum opened with, but has been completely reconfigured, again, to be able to reflect various viewpoints and to make sure that anybody who has history in El Paso will see a little bit of themselves in the exhibition. One of the most popular exhibitions we have mounted in the entire history of the Museum of History is Low and Slow. This is an exhibition on lowrider culture on the border. If you have not checked this out, I would definitely encourage you to do that before it shuts down at the end of July. This is an exhibition that was in the works for almost a year, working with local car clubs to be able to bring to life the experience of going to a traditional Chuco style car show, especially in Lincoln Park under the Spaghetti Bowl, which has been recreated in the galleries. And then of course, a really powerful exhibition is Resilience, Remembering August 3rd, which is actually a recreation of the events of August 3rd, as well as items that were carefully archived and saved from the temporary memorial that sprung up behind the Walmart site. This exhibition was actually reviewed by the Wall Street Journal, and we have been recognized for the work that we have done in terms of community archiving and helping to present the story of that day. And then the last exhibition I will talk about here, actually next to last, is Neighborhoods and Shared Memories, which is actually history of one of our most iconic neighborhoods, not in District 1, of course, District 8, but Sunset Heights, which has an incredibly rich inventory of architecture, as well as some incredible stories from some of our founding families here in the borderlands. And then of course, the last exhibition I want to plug is The Devil You Say, which will open up this coming Thursday. And it's actually an exploration of the saintly and not so saintly in folk art. Next slide, please. So some of the camps and activities that are available for families. The digital wall can actually be accessed 24 hours a day from your phone, from a desktop computer. And the digital wall, if you have not experienced it, is a user-generated history of El Paso. It populates a cityscape that actually allows you to explore various parts of El Paso. When you go to digi.org, you can actually explore by subject matter, you can explore by era, to be able to see all sorts of images that have been uploaded not just by various entities like the Historical Society or UTEP Special Collections, but also from families here in El Paso. And what's really great about the digital wall is it really is a living history with images from some of the very first photographs ever created in El Paso to recent graduation photos. And it continually grows. And we're always encouraging people to upload their memories, their family history, and their ephemera to the wall. Our Museum of History, as of last year, does some, actually 2 years ago, does some really robust programming around Pride. And so this year there will be a number of Pride programs culminating with Historias, the Pride edition, which will be looking at oral histories related to LGBTQ community in El Paso. And then we have virtual summer workshops as well. These are incredibly popular. Again, these are free, but these actually run by lottery at this time that we cannot be, we're not allowed to do classes in person. And so we do prepare kits and packets. These actually, we are limited to 15 people, but because of the popularity, you register, you submit, and then you're put in a raffle for these programs. Next slide, please. The Museum of Archaeology, which is actually our only facility that is not located in the downtown arts district, is located off of Trans Mountain. We'll be reopening for the first time since the pandemic closed our facilities this coming Thursday, and has the exhibition, The Edge of Center, the Chacuan Outliers, which is an incredibly beautiful exhibition featuring centuries of indigenous pottery. And then we actually have a satellite space right now at the El Paso International Airport as part of a long-standing program with the airport to be able to bring artifacts, artwork into the airport itself for people who may not make it to one of our museums. On site there, we have an exhibition called Ancient Visions, which takes the photography of Wayne Suggs, an award-winning photographer from Las Cruces, who specializes in sites like Waco Tanks, Three Rivers, and actually pairs it with artifacts from people who were some of the first inhabitants of those areas. Next slide, please. The El Paso Museum of Archaeology also has summer camps, workshops, and we are excited to be able to offer those again this year. This will be the first year we're not offering our traditional archaeology camp, but we're excited to be able to bring that back hopefully next year. This is actually an incredible opportunity for kids who are interested in archaeology, science, history, or anthropology, or just getting a little dirty, to be able to actually experience a mock dig on site, to be able to understand the process of how staff at the Archaeology Museum have come into possession of a lot of the artifacts we have on site. Next slide, please. And then lastly, one of our most popular programs, which has just entered its 10th year, is our Downtown Art and Farmers Market. This is located in the Union Plaza district. It's directly in front of the historic terminal. And we draw about 60 local vendors to the site each Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And actually, we also draw about 1,000 people per Saturday as well, who are there for activities as well as shopping. We're really proud of the fact that we have extremely robust standards related to who can vend at the market. And what that means is we do verify that people are actually either the growers or the creators of the items that they are selling. So we do not allow resale. We do police that pretty vigilantly to be able to make sure that we maintain integrity and allow this to be a safe space for local creative community to be able to incubate small businesses. This has been a really successful program over the last 10 years because we offer the spaces for the equivalent of about $4 a Saturday. And if anybody has ever vended at any of the other markets in El Paso or in the region, typically the price is about $100 per space per day. And so we've eliminated a lot of the barriers to be able to participate. We also allow for a much more comfortable profit margin for our vendors. And what we've seen over the years is that this has allowed us to incubate small businesses that have actually gone to storefronts. And the one that we like to boast about the most is actually Savage Goods, which is located in Sunset Heights, which started just as a simple table with baked goods at our market. But they actually used the space for 2 years to be able to fine-tune recipes, develop a very loyal customer base, and use that to build a business plan, which we are excited about. Next slide. And I believe this brings us to the end of summer programs for the community, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
If y'all have any questions, you can raise your hand there's one, and then you can also type into the chat.
Thank you again, Ben, for a really great presentation as well. I had a couple questions. I also wanted to let those in the audience know that our office is actually the shows that they have at the Museum of History, specifically on Sunset Heights, as well as the Low and Slow, the Lowrider exhibition are really, really amazing. So working with Ben and the Museum of History staff, we were looking to have a small capped guided tour of some of the exhibits in July. So be on the lookout for that through our newsletter as well as our Facebook page, where we'll be advertising this guided tour of some of the exhibits at the Museum of History again in July. If you're interested about it, again, you can reach out and send us an email at district1@elpasotexas.gov. And then, Ben, I did have one question about a project that is very, 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 very close to District 1. In fact, it's right on the border, and it's a street and a road that is shared by many District 1 residents on Country Club, and that is the Country Club Roundabout. I know that people from time to time email us questions from the district asking what's going on there. In fact, I think that there was an undocumented installation, sort of pop-up installation there towards the holidays earlier this year, I guess with some folks who had a bit of COVID fever. So I'm just kind of curious if you had a brief update and timeline about the work for the public art component for the Country Club Roundabout.
Sure, actually, that's a good question. And I know you are very interested in that, even though it is just outside the boundary line of District 1 representative. So actually that work, the commissioned artist is Laura Turon. She is a local artist, originally from Acapulco, but she has actually called El Paso home for a number of years. She's a great example of an artist that we've worked with several times over several different of our funding programs. And so we feel we've sort of helped her grow into what is her first major commission. And I'm happy to report she is under contract. She's had her community meeting with some great feedback. We are always thrilled when we get a lot of support from the council. So it was great. That was one of the only meetings we have had for public art where we've had multiple council members there. So we do appreciate that. And actually her work is now, the design is actually under fabrication. So I am a little hesitant just because right now with COVID, there are delays because of supply chains for some of our fabrications. And so I'm a little hesitant to give you all a date that we won't be able to commit to, but I should have a date probably here in the next week or two that's fairly solid that we'll communicate with your office. But it is in process and it will be really beautiful when it is finished. The work is inspired by the literal coordinates of the geographic site and the idea of water, which is so important to the Upper Valley, except when you're complaining about mosquitoes in the Upper Valley.
That is true. And I'd be remiss, again, with the budget coming up, there's a lot of exciting programs that, again, support the artists. The downtown farmers market, I think, is case in point about a sort of micro development and micro investment for artists as well. One of the things that brought and kept me in El Paso was our public art project, public art program, specifically the Artist Incubator program. And for those that don't know, that is a those are grants of up to $3,500 for local El Paso artists making local work here in El Paso. And it's a really great project that we've seen poetry books be created, murals throughout downtown in El Paso and created, and a lot of other really great experimental and inspirational work. And so I'm just kind of curious, in terms of the upcoming budget season, could you talk a little bit about Artist Incubator Program and some of the other sort of local artist programs that are scheduled to be funded?
Sure. So I do think it's important to remember that the Artist Incubator Program and our other funding programs where we grant out to arts organizations and local artists is actually funded about 95% from hotel occupancy tax. So it's not coming from general fund, but hotel occupancy definitely took a hit with the pandemic. Last year, our budget was at about 50%. This year, we are increasing the budget. We are excited that the Artist Incubator will be back after its hiatus of last year. We're getting a lot of inquiries. We finished our very last applicant assistance workshops this last week, and we're looking forward to receiving applications on Friday. But we are anticipating a pretty robust cycle. We know the funding is needed, and again, we're always appreciative of the support of council.
Great. So again, we want to, if anybody else has any other questions for Mr. Fife, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat section. If not, I'd love to give a big round of applause to Mr. Fife as well for a really great presentation and all the work that you do for our community. Not just to make it beautiful, but to make it exciting and more interesting than El Paso already is. So thank you again for all the work that you do to support so many in our community.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
I think Tiffany Hopper, did you have a question? I think you had your hand up. I don't know if you'd like to unmute yourself or if that's allowed.
Thank you. I can't.
We can hear you.
Okay, you hear me now? I wanted to know, when will we go to the next phase to have the museums open on Sunday?
So that's a really good question. We actually do not have set timelines for that. I have a standing meeting with Dr. Ocaranza from the health department and Chief D'Agostino from the fire department, who analyze data, and I meet with them every 2 weeks. They look at data, they look at our vaccination levels, they look at various risk factors, and then I'm actually able to sit with them and I go through a list of programs or activations or expansions of activations that I would like to see, and they let me know if we're ready or not to be able to do that. I was really excited to be able to get the go-ahead on the Museum of Archaeology being able to open up. That's been something we've been hearing a lot about from the community. I would be very, very hopeful that we'll be able to enter phase 2 when we start expanding to more hours, including Sunday. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks if we can get the vaccination rate up.
I have a second question. What steps do you take to add an exhibit?
That's a really good question. So exhibitions are typically, most of our exhibitions are planned out 2 to 3 years in advance. It depends on whether or not we are going to be using objects or artwork that belongs to us, or if we're actually going to be borrowing from other museums or other lenders. So for example, the exhibition that will be opening at the History Museum on Thursday with folk art is primarily from a collector of that work in Dallas. And so we have been working with him for about a year now to be able to get him to figure out what he was willing to loan. But we'd had the exhibition sort of tentatively planned out for 2. And so we do a lot of research. We figure out what will help us tell the story that we want to tell in terms of maybe a single artist development or a concept or a period of history. And then we get to work figuring out the objects and artwork that will help fill in that story. And then of course, the last thing I would say we do is there's a lot of scholarship there as well, where we have staff that researches, and then we have to figure out how do we take a lot of PhDs and what they've researched and put it into language that makes sense to the lay person. Because museums, we typically want to write anything we present at about a 5th or a 6th grade reading level. so that anybody can walk up there and understand it and get something out of it and learn something and not be stymied by a lot of jargon or obscure language or terms. And so we work to do that. And then we also work to translate that into Spanish as well. So it's a really fun process. A lot of staff have various hands in that, but it is something that I think we all get really particularly excited about. I think over the last, the year that we were closed, we had a lot of time to be able to work on that. And so again, being able to think about and rethink how we present, what we're presenting, whose stories are we telling, whose stories need to be reflected, I think was really exciting to be able to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you again, Ben. Does anybody else have any other questions for Mr. Fife? Okay. Well, he has gone into his avatar mode. So thank you again, Mr. Fife, for your work. Up next, we have Ellen Smythe, who's the Managing Director of Environmental Services and Sun Metro for the City of El Paso. And she has over 35 years of environmental management experience in for-profit Fortune 100 firms, as well as in public service. Before returning to El Paso, Ellen worked for Eastman Kodak, Waste Management, TxDOT, and the City of Las Cruces. Ellen holds a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering from Texas A&M and a Master's of Public Administration from NMSU. She also holds a Master's of Pastoral Studies in Theology from Loyola University, New Orleans, and she's a registered professional engineer in the state of Texas, as well as New Mexico. In her current position, she oversees 2 large departments with a combined total of nearly 800 employees and $140 million budget that includes mass transit, including our beloved streetcar, fixer-up buses and paratransit services, solid waste management, trash and recycling, as well as landfills, code enforcement, nuisances, environmental health, and vector control, as well as environmental engineering dealing with mold, asbestos, ESAs, methane gas, and others. She is a member of the American Public Works Association, the Solid Waste Association of North America, National Recycling Coalition, American Society of Civil Engineers, the National Society of Professional Engineers, and the Texas Association of Environmental Professionals. Ellen is a native of El Paso and one of 9 children. She is also a proud graduate of Austin High School, as well as having a twin. Her hobbies include hiking, sewing, and handwriting analysis. She is married to Frank, and they have 1 daughter, Anne Marie, who holds an MBA from Texas Tech University. And Ellen never grows tired of my questions relating to the streetcar and when it'll be coming back. We're really excited to have Ms. Smythe here. We've had a presentation a couple months ago relating to environmental services and recycling department, which was very well received. And we thank you again for your service to our community, both within environmental services as well as with Sun Metro. Today, your presentation will be focusing on a proposed fare change for Sun Metro. And this is a presentation that is going out to every single one of the districts. And so it's really important that for y'all that are here from the district, that you have the opportunity to speak up either by unmuting yourself or by placing your comments in the chat section about this presentation and some of the proposed fare changes as well. Thank you again, Ms. Smythe, for being here, and I will go and mute myself now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, so this presentation I'm about to share with you has been presented at 4 town hall meetings already, and as well as for the district community monthly meetings. I'm open for any invitations that you might have, Lions, Kiwanis, Rotaries, any opportunity that I have to get the word out. We are required by FTA to have a 45-day period where the public can send in their comments. And all of the comments that you may make tonight will be documented and will be included on our package of information when we turn it over to the FTA. They want to make sure that all of the people who utilize our services is given a fair opportunity to have their voices heard. So as Representative said, we're very happy to take your input either in the chat by calling 212-3333 is the main number for Sun Metro. Or, of course, you can always call District 1 later if you think of something else you'd like to say. So it's a very short presentation followed by question and answer period, and then any closing remarks that the representative may have. The mission of Sun Metro is to connect our El Paso community through high quality transit services. And our vision is to be your first choice in local mobility options. Now, I know that you don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to ride the bus to work today. I would think most of you probably that thought doesn't cross your mind first thing. As a matter of fact, it probably doesn't cross your mind during the entire day. But my vision is someday the transportation division of the city of El Paso will be so awesome that you will want to take it. It will be your absolute first choice when you wake up every morning and you're deciding where to go. All of the money that we receive from the FTA, as well as the half-penny sales tax and the fares we collect, go towards enhancing the overall system. So it's a citywide system, includes the fixed route buses that are on a set schedule. We have the Brio rapid transit system. They're not necessarily on a set schedule, but they do have a beginning point and an end point. And in the middle, we try and go as fast as we can to get you to the destination. We're also working on park and ride facilities with transit centers and parking garages, as well as the beloved streetcar. The Lyft service is dedicated to the paratransit community. It meets the needs of many of our ADA persons with disabilities. It's door to door. We pick you up from wherever you are at your house and take you to wherever you need to go. It is also citywide. Currently, if you're eligible to ride the Lyft, we offer a free bus ride on the fixed route. So you can apply for the Lyft, become eligible, and then never use the Lyft. You can actually ride the fixed buses. This is going up to $1 per ride in my proposal. We have a very generous application and eligibility process. It's about a 3-page application. It's very easy to fill out. You can find the application online at www.sunmetro.net. And we have an above on-time performance ranking for all of the other transit industries in America. We do offer a 30-minute window of when we'll pick you up, and then on the return trip, a 30-minute window again of when we'll collect you. And based on that 30-minute window appointment, we have over 95% on-time performance. Currently, this is where we are. We have not had a fare increase in over 10 years. It's almost been 15 years now. There's been no senior fare increase at all. It's 30 cents for the last 26 years. So the last time we increased the fare was in 1997, and it went from 25 cents to 30 cents. And so these fares only cover approximately 5 to 10% of the actual cost. The actual cost of a ride on a regular bus is $4.50. That's what it actually costs me to pay the drivers and to buy the buses. And it actually costs $40 every time we have a Lyft customer. And the Lyft riders are currently, this in front of you is what we're currently charging versus the proposal. The single ride ticket on a regular bus is currently $1.50, and I'm proposing that these go up 50 cents to $2. The single ride ticket on a Lyft is currently $2.50. And again, I'll remind you, it's the actual cost of service is $40, so it's highly subsidized. Where we're proposing, the reason it's in yellow, when I started this presentation back in May, I was proposing a $4 fee, which would have been 10% of the actual cost. But based on the input from the town hall meetings and the community meetings that I've held thus far, the riders and the people who were most affected by this fee increase were not happy. And so just based on listening to all their comments, I've changed my request for the Mass Transit Board for consideration at City Council to go up just like a regular ride ticket, 50 cents, just to go up 50 cents on the Lyft ticket as well. There'll no longer be any more free transfers. If a transfer is needed, you'd be required to buy a day pass. So a day pass would be $5. And the $5 is based on this single ticket ride is $2 to get there, $2 to get home. So it's a $4 that you would spend on your trip. If you need to stop or transfer, stop at the gym, stop at the grocery store, then you would just purchase an all-day pass. You can ride any bus as many times as you want during that 24-hour period. The discounts ranged, I mentioned the 30 cents for the senior discounts. We had a $1 discount for students, $1 for seniors, and $1 for military. I mean, $1 for students and $1 for military. So now all of the discounts are $1. So it's not variable anymore. If it's discounted from the $2, it's half price. So it's a $1 ticket. This is also in yellow because this was not on the fee schedule at all. We never offered a day pass for students, seniors, or military. So again, the discounted ticket is $1 to get there, $1 to get home. So if you need to get off or transfer or stop at the gym or the grocery store or go see your mom, you would buy a $3 day pass. And this was actually requested during the town hall meeting. So we did go ahead and include that in our proposal now. I mentioned currently, if you apply to ride the lift and you're eligible, you were able to ride the regular buses for free. And now those eligible lift passengers would also be considered a discount like everyone else, and it would be $1 or $3 all-day pass for lift eligible riders. So like I was saying, this is for the incremental fare increases for the lift. So right now we're looking at FY22. The FY22 budget begins September 1st. And I mentioned I was asking to go from $2.50 to $4 all at one time. But based on the input, the riders requested that it go up 50 cents this year, like the regular tickets, and then a 25-cent per year incremental increase until I get to my $4. The only problem, by the time we get to $4, it's already FY26, 2026. And by then we would have been needing another fare increase anyway. So what I'm proposing to the Mass Transit Board is to go ahead and get approval for a 25-cent increase incrementally for now, the 50 cents, and then incrementally for the next 6 years. One of the questions I've gotten is, if this is approved, is it set in stone? And the City Council can change their contracts. They can change their pricing at any time. The City Council is the ultimate decision-making body. So this does not stop them from changing if they see fit. For example, in FY 2026, if they say, oh, well, $4 just isn't going to be enough, we need to make it $4.50 now, they can do that. Or if they say $4 is too much, we're going to stay at $3.75, they have the power to do whatever they want. The only thing it would require is, again, a 45-day public comment period, documentation to the FTA, and the application to make sure that we were given opportunity to all the riders to be informed about these fare increases or not. We also offer weekly passes and monthly passes. So these weekly passes for military students or seniors, as well as monthly. We do not sell very many weekly or monthly passes, but we're hoping now with our electronic app on your smartphone that we'll be able to convince people to start buying more of their tickets online. And once they're able to buy their tickets online, I'm also hoping that we'll be able to sell more of them. Currently under construction, we have the Montana Brio. It's about 40% complete. We anticipate this entire stretch of Montana from 5 Points east of 375. It's just about 1 mile short of the East Side Regional Park, affectionately known as the Beast. We're also building a new Brio Airport Station. This is a rendering of the building that will be constructed immediately across the street from the new rental car facility. If you've been to the airport recently and you look just across the street from the rental car facility, there's a vacant lot, and that's where this Brio station will be constructed. The Far East Transit Center is also under construction. This is about 60% complete, and it's located just off Montana on RC Poe. I mentioned the funding that we get is going for our fleet replacement. We're buying our regular 35-foot buses. We're buying our 60-foot rapid transit buses, as well as our 15 passenger and paratransit vehicles for the ADA community. This is our brand new app. If you have a smartphone, you can look it up right now. It's called Sun Metro. And you can download it and purchase your tickets online with any credit card, debit card, Apple Wallet, or Google Pay. We're also making a really concerted effort to improve our bus stops. The enhancements will include accessibility, curb cuts, the widening of the sidewalks so that we don't infringe on the accessibility of other people using the sidewalks. This photograph of a bus stop is about a $6,000 improvement by the time you pour the concrete, install the shelter, and do the curb cuts. So that's about the average cost of each bus stop enhancement. If we also sell our tickets on ticket vending machines, they're located at the transit terminals. You can still use cash on the bus, buy your tickets from a cashier, or use the new mobile pay. This is the mobile pay app, Sun Metro. It's available in English or Spanish, and either on your iOS or Android if you're an Apple user. The tentative timeline, the very first time I spoke to the Mass Transit Board about the possibility of raising these fares was back in March. I was given the green light to go out to the community and find out what the reaction is. The first meeting that I had was in April to the Citizen Advisory Committee. The Citizen Advisory Committee is made up of individuals from the ADA community. And then, of course, May and June, this month and last month are all about the public meetings. And anytime a counselor requests a meeting, I'm happy to do that. And then, of course, I will go back in July to present to the Mass Transit Board the final recommendations. And if it's approved, this is still very preliminary. There's not been any vote taken, so it's still totally open for public comment. If it is approved, then we will start our outreach and education campaign to let everybody know about the new structure of the fares, and it would be implemented on September 1st. And so that's my presentation, and then I'm open for any questions that you might have. I see you waving your hand. John, I don't know if you want to be master of ceremony. I can't really tell who's asking questions.
Yes, ma'am, I can unmute those. I don't see a hand up right now.
Miss Tiffany Hopper is
Oh,
raising
okay.
her hand, John.
Oh, well, in that case, there you go.
Okay, she's
Hi,
unmuted.
Ellen. Thank you for that overview. I've ridden the bus only once, and I've been here for over 20 years. It was a great ride. I do have a question on the streetcar that I may be taking away from District 1 rep, but when do you plan to bring back the streetcars? And I know prior to the pandemic, the streetcars were not getting a lot of ridership. What are you going to do to help, marketing and to get more people to ride the streetcars? What plan of action do you have?
I'll answer those questions in reverse order. So I'm working very closely right now with the Public Information Office on putting together a streetcar. Previously, there was a program called the Trolley Trails, where we would have programming. So one of the most popular programs we had was Ride and Read. We partnered with the El Paso Library on Saturday mornings, and we would select a book, and we would invite our guest readers to come onto the streetcar, and the parents would bring their children, and the parents and the child could get on board, and we would read the books to the children. And sometimes we would have to take 3 or 4 loops around before we were able to meet the needs of all the demand. So we're looking at bringing the Ride and Read back, but we're also looking at something similar to like Alfresco Fridays, where we have a different theme weekend. So for example, we would have the mariachi weekend, And so we would have a Mexican themed where we would have some of our employees in costume and some music on the streetcar. And hopefully we'll be able to partner with some of the bars along the streetcar ride to have maybe margaritas at a discounted price at night. And then we could have a roaring 20s where, again, staff would dress in costume for the 1920s. We would partner and hopefully maybe have a martini that would be a discounted, the drink of the evening. We would have another weekend would be the jazz weekend where we would have jazz music and type Mardi Gras, and maybe partner and have a hurricane to where people could get on, enjoy the music and the costumes, and get off and enjoy a beverage and then get back on. And so try and make it a fun weekend type activity so that people will be drawn to ride the streetcar. We're also looking at partnering with all of the events. The first event that's actually signed a contract right now is the Junior League, and they're hosting the Christmas Fair the first weekend in November 5th, 6th, and 7th. So for sure, we're going to run that weekend. The weekend before that is Halloween. So to be October 29, 30, and 31. So we're looking at Dia de los Muertos. So we were looking at the possibility of running that weekend. We don't want to run empty. We're really in a position financially where we can't afford to run empty. So when we run, we want to run when we know that there's already going to be people down there. One of the issues we had with running with Southwest University Park is the games have a definite start time. So we know when people are going to need to ride it and get to the game. But the problem is overtime. When games go into overtime, double overtime, triple overtime, some of those games would go on and on and on. And then suddenly we're in an overtime position. And ultimately, some families got left behind. And that just gives us a really bad reputation when we end up leaving our riders behind. And I don't want to get into that position. So when we start back up, we're going to be a lot more calculated about the events that we are partnering with. And so we have a lot of ideas in the works right now. We're just waiting to see when's a good time to come back. The city manager is asking me about 4th of July weekend, which is just 3 weekends away. And I have a meeting with him tomorrow about that one. So it's not a definitive start time, but we're looking at it very seriously to come back as soon as we can. It's fully functional. Just so you know, all of the certifications are up, the maintenance is up, the drivers are certified. There's nothing wrong with it. We could start tomorrow. It's just that we don't want to run empty.
Ellen, do we have enough safety operators currently with where we were for the streetcar?
Yes, I just moved all the streetcar drivers to drive the regular bus. So they all still work here.
Okay, the operators, but also the streetcar, the safety managers as well.
Yes, we had a safety manager who did leave the department, but he had trained 2 of his other managers to be his right-hand man. And so one of them is over the streetcar and one of them is over the fixed route, instead of just having one person over both. But because both of them, he had trained both of them so well that they're fully certified.
Yeah, I'd agree with Ms. Hopper. I think bring up some great points. I mean, you go to downtown over these last few weekends. Actually, I was there on Thursday, and it's pretty much full. El Pasoans out on the streets. High school graduations going on. The restaurants, the hotels are full. I think that the streetcar is part of that story. It's part of our downtown story. It's part of our culture and history as well. The trolley tracks that my office had sponsored on the first year, I think, was a great opportunity, and it's wonderful to see the idea of looking at further themes and the ability for private groups, whether it's the Junior League and others, to be able to rent out a streetcar. I think Ms. Carter Tripp had made a mention that she lived in Brussels and you could rent a streetcar and have a party on the trolley. And I would say that every time we get a ride on the trolley, it's a bit of a party. So,
Right.
So I think that it's pretty exciting, the work that's there. And I think that this community is sort of coming back, opening back up. A lot of us are sort of are vaccinated at this point and wanting to experience those things that made El Paso so great. And the streetcar is one of those things. Again, you know, public transit is an interesting part of government work insofar as, like clean drinking water, it doesn't make a profit. And very rarely, if ever, has a mass transit or a public transit system ever even broken even. You can even look at the New York subways, you know, the MTA and the New York subway. I don't think they've ever once turned a profit. And that's probably the heaviest ridership in the history of the world for a subway mass transit system. And so I think that, you know, the streetcar opening up again and the ideas that people have for them, I think it's important to understand that, you know, it is an economic development driver. It is a way to celebrate our culture and history. And the ridership is developing over time as well, but the programming and what you're looking forward to investing in, I definitely think is a step in the right direction. And so thank you again. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that on July 4th, we'll have streetcars wrapped in red, white, and blue banners, and we'll be able to ride the streetcar to the Locomotives game on Saturday, July 3rd at 7:30 p.m. And people will be able to take their kids and their grandkids and ride the streetcar on the birthday of our country. And so we did have one question in the chat that I saw as well. This is from Miss Marshall Carter Tripp, who is wondering about evening services, at least for downtown events or EPC and UTEP students. Miss Carter Tripp has brought this up to me before, and it also extends towards the Brio line as well, given the concern that, you know, the Brio line tends to shut off at around 7 p.m. So people who are working downtown or working in another place oftentimes don't have the time to be able to take the Brio back home after getting a bite to eat or going to the grocery store. And so just want to have that question there if you wanted to address about evening services and the possibility of that for Sun Metro.
Well, yes, you know, if you go to the www.sunmetro.net, it's got all of our schedules on there, and many of our services, the drivers arrive at 4:30 to begin 5 o'clock in the morning runs for the people who need to get to work by 6 or 7. And then at night we do run, I believe our last run is at 10 or 11 at night. I know that not all of them run that late, but if there was a more specific, if you're talking the Mesa Brio, I'll check that one, but I think that is one of our latest runs that we do make.
I believe the Brio ends up around 7 or 8 o'clock. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I can check it here, but yeah, I'll check that for you.
Does anybody else have a question? Yeah, it says last run, I guess, Downtown Transit Center, West Side Transit, 7 p.m. and then 7:45 from the West Side Transit. Anyways.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about the proposed fare increase or the change in the fare increase as well? I know that we have a number of people here. I don't know, Ms. Hopper, if you have some thoughts, or Ms. Tripp, or anyone else. You're okay with the fare increase?
You know, just for full disclosure, some of the comments, there's always the percentage of folks who think the entire system should be free. We shouldn't charge anybody anything. So that's also been documented for the FTA's consideration. Of course, El Paso is in that unique situation where most cities get the full penny sales tax. So half a penny is $15 million a year. And I get 50 million for Sun Metro, but if we had 100 million, we would have a lot more opportunities than we do right now. So that's really the biggest thing holding us back from expanding to where we need to be. And when you start using the sales tax from the general fund, then I'm competing with people like Ben Fife at the museums and the libraries and the zoo. And they're always very conscious about the funding that's needed for the quality of life programs. So I don't really know that I'm in a position to ask them to give up, when this is already highly, highly subsidized. And profit's not in my vocabulary. There's no such thing as a profit.
No, I mean, there isn't necessarily a profit with it, but again, public transit is a common good. It's something that
Right.
that
No, I know, but when we're already paying 90% of the cost, and we've tapped out the FTA funding and we've tapped out the sales tax, there's very few other places I can go. I'm always looking for new ideas. I'm actually have a meeting with Medicaid, because in some states, Medicaid does reimburse their riders for, if they're qualified to go to the doctor, they're also qualified to get their transportation reimbursed. I'm also looking at partnering with independent school districts to see if they would pick up part of the funding for the student tickets. So I have a lot of different research projects going on right now, and I'm hoping that they all turn out with something fruitful that'll help bring more funding to the Sun Metro.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate the time that you took here today. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions for Ms. Smythe. Can put it in the chat section or raise your hand here. I'll also open up if anybody has any questions about anything going on in the District 1 office or anything that we're working on, or you have any questions about. More than happy to answer them at this point. All right. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time here today. Big round of applause to Mr. Fife and Ms. Smythe for your participation here today, as well as Larry John Porce, our Chief of Staff, and Luz Esquivel, our Office Manager as well. Thank you guys for taking the time today to help organize this District 1 community meeting. Again, keep you on the lookout for July. We're going to be having a guided tour of some of the exhibits with the Museum of History. Really looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll be able to work with one of their curators. I think it'll be something really special and unique for District 1 residents. So again, if you don't already sign up to our District 1 newsletter, send us an email at district1@elpasotexas.gov, or we'll put a link over there in the bottom as well. And again, looking forward to that. And again, if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to our office, and we'll do our best to help you with your concerns. Thank you again for letting me serve over the last 6 years. It's actually on 6/13/2015, I was elected in a runoff election. And so it's been 6 years, pretty much to the day that I entered this journey of public service. And so I do want to thank everybody for letting me serve our district in this beautiful community. It's been one of the biggest honors of my life. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, and everybody be well and be safe, and God bless.
Bye, everyone.